Can you start with sharing the story behind your business, Accountfully, and what was it that inspired you to challenge the traditional accounting firm model?
It's a great question. I think it's a consolidation of like several things that happened in my life. Number one, worked at a big accounting firm, PwC, up in Detroit and Chicago. Met my now wife and business partner Meredith there. So basically, CPAs, accountants became a couple, right? But we were working in consulting, big business. You're not knowing what's going on, but the way that my mind operated was very systematic, process oriented, etc. Quit that because I was over it in my late 20s as I was finding myself, right? You're, adulting, growing up. Got a job with a family of wine companies, which my cousin owns in Charlotte. We're basically small companies that all interacted and worked together. And I was essentially their kind of accountant / first low-level controller, right? And so I'm working with small business, doing anything and everything, figuring out cash issues, how to account for inventory, payroll taxes, sales, the whole 9 yards that you had no experience with or I had zero experience before. So I kind of started enjoying that kind of entrepreneurial vibe, that small business vibe that provided a lot of hard work, but more freedom, right, than the big corporations, as well as like I would go into the warehouse and throw some boxes around. And it was like, cool, that was my day today. It's a lot. You got a sense of pride of that tangible, actual work that you saw. Ended up not vibing with Charlotte. We moved down to Charleston, 2011. Didn't know anybody. Still live here. Love Charleston. But didn't know anybody. And when you're 28, 29, like how do you meet people? So kind of all at that same time, I kind of got a vibe of let's start something. Let's go towards the entrepreneurial venture. And at that time, it was like bookkeeping's not cool. Let's do CFO consulting or something, right? So you're going out, shaking hands, figuring out, meeting people, whatever, trying to figure out what you're selling or what you're doing. Anyways, got a couple clients where we helped them with some CFO and some different things, more bookkeeping, whatever. But then it was very fluid and back and forth and up and down. And then one trip, I think it was actually like our bachelorette party out west. I was reading 4 Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, and it was about recurring revenue and systems, and boom, it's just like a light bulb went off. I'm like, we got to do bookkeeping. That's small businesses need bookkeeping, consistent paying bills, payroll, like monthly financials. How do we get that? Right at the same time, software as a service was coming, QuickBooks Online, Bill.com, the whole 9 yards. So it was a perfect timing with that. We went ahead and launched, got a couple clients, got referred to the new Primal at the same time, and added value to those folks. And so like with all those things that happen, it just kind of realized like there's this opportunity here where I didn't know how to do taxes. I didn't know how to do audits. I didn't want to be a full-time bookkeeper, but I saw this little middle ground of like, wow, we could be this middle person that could help integrate in a much more fractional manner, as well as become kind of like a cooler vibe to these small businesses. So as we were going through it and saw this opportunity, it was like, let's market to cool creatives. Accounting, bookkeeping isn't the most fun thing, but if we market to cool creatives and work with them and see cool products they're building or cool services they're providing, it'll keep our creative, juices flowing. That's kind of what happens. So we kind of just lucked out with the whole 5, 6, 7 things. And as you know, like timing is a big part of just, entrepreneurial ventures, business journey success. So
product market fit and timing is so important. And I think we forget that sometimes, but it is so important. And I think you're exactly right. In my experience, I was, look, creative people, especially, or entrepreneurs, especially, like none of us have skills in accounting. Like it's not a natural skill set. Even if you go to business school, you take, accounting 1 and 2, and then you move on. And that's it, and you kind of work your way through that. I think when we met, I had a grocery bag of receipts that I handed to Meredith, I think, at one point, and said, here we have QuickBooks Online. No one's logged in a while, and here's our receipts.
I think you had that with a bunch of like letters from the IRS and South Carolina Department of Revenue.
I think that's where it started, because you're supposed to file quarterly reports and all these things that we had no idea what to do. So I'm thankful personally that you all were there to provide a service like that. But also you made an interesting point. I think that's relevant for everyone on a path of trying to build something. And that is like there are niches within niches within niches sometimes within every industry. And so, you found and you carved out a corner of that, and it worked out really well for you. And like, you didn't have to go be, this gigantic accounting and auditing firm. You didn't have to go be, this full-time fractional CFO firm to do. Like, you weren't trying to be all things to all people. You found your little niche. And sometimes that's through trial and error, right? You kind of had to like maneuver within it for a little bit. And then it opened up. It was like, oh, this makes a ton of sense. Mm-hmm. And then you just put your head down and keep going. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the rub. Like, we either think too broadly at first and we don't really kind of niche down, or, we kind of get, we're not willing to take those first steps to just kind of dive in a little and start to feel your way around and figure out what's going to work well. And, I think that's a common trap within entrepreneurism in general. So, your story is reflective of that. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I feel like one of the reasons why we've been able to do what we do, because we kind of understood where we could actually execute and add value. I was very, very kind of hesitant and anxious to be like, yeah, we can be your CFO for a $20 million company and do this, this, and this. It's like, no, but like, that scares me. And that's just going to set up somebody for failure. But you know what we could do? For $1 million or $500,000 annual brand, we can do some basic bookkeeping, some monthly financial reporting, and help them out tremendously at a very, reasonable rate. So once we realized that and we stayed there and we just executed, that was a big part of it versus being like, let's do this everywhere and let's try all this everywhere. And I felt like it also gave our team confidence because we were able to create some like processes and templates and workflows that were more sustainable versus working in 8 different systems and much different sizes of companies. Clearly was issues or times that we went bigger or small or whatever, but it like, after a while, it's like, you know what, let's just kind of keep moving forward in that direction and grow organically and just keep kind of providing a good service that we feel confident in.
Yeah, really. There's a lot of lessons in the entire bit of commentary you just provided. I hope people will listen to it a couple of times over. There's focus, there's trial and error, there's systems and processes to sort of like stay in your lane. There's so many that we could unpack any one of those and spend the next hour talking about them. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced in the beginning when you were like transitioning from that sort of corporate accounting background? You went to work for the small business. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced when you decided we're gonna found our own firm?
I think number one was basically trying to was figuring out what we actually could do for people, right? Like, I think, I already mentioned that already, but it's like, again, CFO, the term CFO is still used very broadly. And I'm very like, I want to educate people on what that means versus an actual bookkeeper and a controller. But that's a more sexy term than bookkeeping. But when that light bulb went off, I was like, you know what small businesses will pay for? Somebody to process payroll, somebody to file sales tax, somebody to pay bills, somebody to do, give me reports, somebody to help me with reports at year end to do 1099s and income taxes. So it's like, once that came off, that was the first big thing that was like, cool, let's move forward in that direction. So I think that was number one, the biggest kind of challenge there. Number two, I would say it would just be as we kept growing and Meredith wasn't fully on the team yet, basically fully. She was doing a couple other things and then kind of helped a couple clients. But as we were growing, I was like, I need more people. We're getting married or almost getting married. We just bought a house. You're a CPA. Like, hey, this is a perfect fit. So, so it was, once that happened, that's really when it kind of, started taking off because we had two kind of leaders that were focused in the same vision, mission, long-term plan or short-term and long-term plan of of what we're going to do. Every new client we get is a raise for our family, basically those things. So that was great of finding like a partner versus me just kind of floating around with a couple of employees. Right. So, that's really helped. And then I guess, outside of that, it was just like, once you kind of go down a path of like, I remember glaringly, I always tell people this, two things that when we started this, I said, I'm never going to work with inventory based companies because they're too much of a pain in the ass, and I'm not going to do taxes. So Accountfully, literally the majority of our clients are inventory based companies now, specifically within that CPG. And secondly, we have a tax team of 7. We're doing 450 tax returns a year. So you got to listen to your people and say like, and again, like from the tax side, that was really easy because people are like, hey, you're doing our books. Can you just do our taxes? Like, I just want to go to one-stop shop and stuff. So it was like, that makes sense. So we started some contractual relationships that brought on employees over time and been able to grow that. And we have a really cool value-added service with that. On the inventory side of things, specifically, you guys were the first ones really outside of a couple of smaller ones that weren't as big, but we really lucked out of working with you and getting involved in the CPG space, and literally that referral engine just started, right? So another book I read outside of Forward Read was Referral Engine. What does that mean? Like the partners, the clients that like refer, get to that kind of qualified lead function, get more people in the funnel, but people that trust you already. And we got in that space and started doing it and was like, wow, this is a great place to be. And we started adding value to the CPG world plus inventory space in such a tight-knit community. That has helped us kind of go where we're going. And on top of that, to again, loop back to the whole timing thing, like you go to a, CPG community Slack channel or a mailing list, there's 75 accounting firms now. Guess how many there was a decade ago that worked with small emerging brands and cloud-based that were like hip and cool? 1, 2, 3, like, and so we were there for the supply and demand. So it was easy in that space. So we were able to get momentum and get in that space and build that trust and get involved in the community 5 years in advance of where a lot of the folks are now. So we really lucked out, but I mean, just product fit, service. Oh, these people need help and they need these services. Well, let's start doing that. And then once you do that, and then you have good partners and people and you hire good talent, it kind of just goes, organically and the car just starts moving.
So I heard three critical things here. I just want to confirm that I heard them right. One, I heard sometimes you have to set your ego aside because, the word CFO or fractional CFO is way sexier than bookkeeping. Right. Yeah. And like, it would be ego driven if you were to sort of like stake your claim and say, no, we're CFOs or we're fractional CFOs. Because on one hand, like that feels good, right? It feels like this is what I'm qualified to do or whatever that might be. And on the other hand, though, it might be intimidating for those small businesses, those $500,000 businesses, those $1 million, $1.5 million annual revenue businesses to be like, I can't afford a CFO, but man, I'm overwhelmed with a tax burden or bookkeeping or paying bills or just keeping track of it all. And so I think like understanding that and then being willing to like kind of step outside of it and say, no, look, this is where the real value is in the market. Like, who the hell cares what you call it? I think that's really, really important for people to understand because, man, you talk about books that you've read, The Ego is the Enemy is certainly one that, it holds true for me. So I heard like kind of setting that aside was really, really important. Product market fit timing is everything. I think you guys were just right there at the right time. Exactly. And then, something that has also been extraordinarily true in my business is like listening to your customers, listening to their needs and being willing to adapt to their needs. I remember, I think it might've been the first time we met at a tech conference or something like that in Charleston. One of the guys from Fuzzco, I think it was, that introduced us. Mm-hmm. And, I think
we won't say his name.
It's one of those guys. But I think, you were telling me about your business. I was telling you about mine. We were both just getting started. And I think I remember you saying like, yeah, we're not looking to work with any inventory based businesses at the time. And I think I remember when I called, I was like, but just give me a shot. Like, we need help and you're here, like, give me a shot and try it out. And so I think and then like realizing the opportunity within that, I think, is really smart because, to your point, like it's the majority of your businesses today. And then also once you get in it, and then people like me go, Brett, you've done all my bookkeeping and all my accounting for the past year. Who do I go to for my taxes now? You're just going to send that off to some other firm? No, I mean, like, why don't we just take it on? We can partner with, various people within the industry, and we can figure that out. And so listening to your customers and being willing to adapt to the market is I think, probably the most critical thing you can do once you're in it.
100%. No doubt. And wear a black t-shirt.
Here's the thing, because it takes that like daily. There's only so much willpower in the tank for the day, and so I just honestly, if you look at my closet today, it's probably mostly black t-shirts. So it's just kind of like the wardrobe.
Once I find a good t-shirt that I like to fit, I'll order like a couple black, a couple white, a couple gray, a couple blue. It's boom.
That's it. Easy.
For the next 4 months.
Well, and you live in a southern climate, so you need the t-shirts for most of the year, right? Yeah. So it works perfect. Black t-shirt is the key to any success. So let's talk work-life balance for a second.
Sounds great.
I think you guys emphasize that at Accountfully, but how do you maintain balance personally? And how do you instill that within the team you've built?
So a big core tenet of me as a person and why like I'm kind of a rebel, and why it kind of fuels me is that when I just didn't understand how the big accounting firms operate. They hire a bunch of kids out of college. They throw them to like training events for a week, and they all stay at the same hotel room in Dallas or Houston. Everybody's getting drunk, not paying attention. You're investing all this money. You're then burning them out 60, 70 hours. And like your model's like, cool, we're going to hire 100, 50 will be here in 3 years. And it's like, that just doesn't even make sense to me. Like, so like, why wouldn't you like maybe change it a little bit? And when you invest all this money, maybe like try to keep 80% or 70% or whatever the number is. Just like the whole retention thing didn't make sense. The second is part of that. Some of these partners and bosses that are supposed to be great and cool and you look up to and mentor, some of them just literally just never listened to you, didn't know your name, like, and you've met them 10 times. And it was just like, I had these situations and light bulbs of like, number one, it has to be a better way. Number two, I feel like I'm as smart as that guy, or I can get to that point sooner or whatever. I can figure it out. And number three, there's a lot of accountants who are super cool, super smart that don't want to work 60 hours a week, but are very hardworking and would be put in a great 40 hours and call it a day. Right. So if you find those people and you build it, right, like they will come. So when we launched Accountfully and really kind of created it and started doing it, like, finding those people that have been a lot of times in like the client service space for public accounting, because they're like, wow, this is cool. I have no problem working hard. I have no problem juggling clients. I'm good at task management, communications, client service. I just don't want to work 70 hours a week. So basically, and that's most of us, right? So getting that in place and instilling it, reviewing. I mean, we track our time, reviewing time reports. There's people that work 45, but it's like, over time, if it, gets down to a week here and there, like let's get it down. Even during our tax season, our tax team, we're extending 70% of the returns. Because I'm like, I don't expect you guys to work 65 hours a week for 2.5 months just because of some stupid tax deadline at the IRS. Our friends at the IRS, put in place. It's like, this doesn't make any sense. So that was kind of a big part of it. So like, there's people that want to work like this, and how do we do this? And then the other last thing, a big part of this was I didn't want to work that hard. And by that, I mean, like, yes, I grinded. Meredith did as well. We but as we had kids, like it was impossible but different things came up. And a big part of us was, we're going to work really hard from Monday through Thursday. Fridays, we live in Charleston. We're getting done at 2:00, calling it a day, go on a boat, go to the beach, go out with some friends in a happy hour. So we always instilled like summer Fridays across the entire year. And I think a big part of that has been a draw to our team of like, cool, I can get off early on a Friday and do whatever it is. So kind of, some of those cool things that people saw, but it also wasn't like, no, you need to stay at the office. I'm getting off because I'm the boss. It's like, no, we're all on the same team. We're all work hard. We're all working for the common goal. Let's go and move forward with that. So I would say from that aspect of that work-life balance is where we're at with Accountfully. With that being said, like the one thing I will say is we've focused. I mean, we have 70 employees today. We've hired we have probably a total of 200 people at Accountfully involved for the last 12 years and some time. Like we are very hardworking. We're operationally efficient. We're like, you got this, here's your time, get them done, call it a day, right? But you're not going to sit around for 20 hours a week doing nothing, right? So like, but that's the fine line of it that comes into play. There's not a lot of fluff time.
Yeah.
And then on like the kind of personal work-life balance, it was much harder. Again, my wife's my business partner, right? So it's very hard, especially in the young time or the young phases of the business of segmenting responsibilities. That was the biggest first obstacle was we don't all both need to be in all sales calls together. We both don't need to share clients. Like, I think we need to have responsibilities and different clients, and you stay over here, don't bother me. You stay over here, don't bother me. Right. But at the same time, we know we're moving forward and going to grow the business together. Right. So I think segmented responsibilities and trusting each other was a big part of that. Before we had kids, I mean, we talked about Accountfully constantly, clearly. And then when we had kids, we still did it. But at the same time, like, kids were a great buffer of just like, we're over here just figuring out life and I can't think about business and all that type of stuff. So it's been really good. And now that we've grown our business over time, literally, like, again, it's like the Monday through Thursdays, we chat or about, business. I work from home. Some days she works from home. Some days we work from the office. Some days we literally don't talk to each other and she's 10 feet from me. But we really don't ever talk about work on Saturdays and Sundays or like Friday afternoons. It's like Thursday nights, glass of wine, what's going on? Maybe Friday happy hours, what's up, done. The rest of the weekend, it's family time. So it's been able to do that. And we're just like, have created kind of those boundaries in our life now where it's, turn it off. And I try not to check emails on the weekend or things like that, just because it just kind of helps me with that. So it was a process, you figure it out. But, as an entrepreneur, it's not the worst thing just to work your ass off and figure it out, because it's your future. And sometimes it takes over your life, or it does take over your life. And sometimes, you need to step back and take a break. And if you have kids, get married and do different things, it kind of takes your mind off of that, which has really helped us as a family grow.
Yeah. You said something that really hits home. Look, entrepreneurs are built to be entrepreneurs, and it's really difficult to turn off. I applaud you for the boundaries that you're able to set in life, because like, it can consume you and it's all you think about. And it's when you're not working, you're thinking about it and you're thinking about building and what's next and what you have to do tomorrow. And if your partner works with you in the same line of work, the trap is probably that, like, when you finish work and log off, you go home and keep talking about work. And like, it's like what you discuss. And so sure, having kids and like doing other things can provide, really nice buffers, as you mentioned. However, like for me, like, it's always still running in the back of my mind, like the program's still there. So without the boundaries or the at-home systems, which are summer Fridays or every Friday, 2:00 done, not logging back on, nothing's burning to the ground over the weekend. And this weekend is about our family. It's about us connecting. It's about our, what we're up to. Work will be there on Monday when we get there. It's a really hard place to get to as an entrepreneur. And so I think it's really important also for people to hear that, because look, there's a season for everything. And yeah, man, you're 25 years old. You want to go start your business. You don't have any responsibilities or any strings attached. Grind it out. Like, you want to go 70, 80 hours a week to go do something special? Go get it. You got the energy. You got the momentum. Go. But, you start making decisions to marry someone, to have children with someone, to build a life together. Like, you got to figure the balance thing out very quickly. And I think it's really important to kind of walk the walk. And so doing what you did with the business to say 2:00, we're done. Listen, when we're here, we're efficient. We crush it. Get your work done. Go home. We have two things similar. So one, Melissa, a partner in my business, has always been like super adamant about people's PTO, and like she'll check it every month and be like, this person's not taking their PTO. They never take it. And like, she'll go have a conversation with them. Like, why aren't you taking any time off? And they'll say something like, well, I can't, there's just too much to do. She's like, nope. You better put it on the calendar and take that. I mean, you got to refresh the bandwidth. Like, you got to restart the computer sometimes. Yep. That's been really important. And we just implemented, Brad, we just went to a 4-day work week at the start of this year. So we're Monday to Thursday. Everyone has Fridays off. And we haven't missed a beat. We're having our best year ever. So
love it. Yeah, we've talked about that or thought like different things. The problem with us is the way that we support our clients, and clients need stuff on Friday. So it just gets to a point of like, it is what it is, guys, but you have PTO, take it off. Like, let's get coverage in place. Every client team or account team has multiple people to support. So, it gets to that, perspective. I think one thing that rings true in terms of like from why we do what we do or why I'm able to unplug or why Meredith is or why we've created this is like authenticity. I think there's a bullshit factor out there in the world of entrepreneurism, business ownership, Twitter, Instagram, that literally is like, I'm grinding. I get up at 4 a.m. and I read 6 books and I do this and I meditate and I cold plunge. And then, I'm going to quit drinking. And it's just like, y'all are nuts. Like, okay, fine. Live your life, but you're full of shit. Like, literally, like, first of all, if you have kids, all you know is that how kids you have, you literally are so busy that or I guess the only thing is that is expected is unexpected, right? Hey, the toddler's sleeping good at night. Well, guess what? The third night, she's going to get up all night. You're going to be tired all day. So, like, people that do that, like, it drives me nuts, especially if you have kids. And then it's like, so what are you doing all weekend? Reading books? Like, you just work 70 hours during the week. You're stressed. Like, enjoy your time with your fiance, your wife, your kids. Go on a trip with your friends. Go out and have a cocktail or a mocktail. Don't play this off. So, like, a big part of us is like, we love being social. We love having friends down here. We don't have a lot of friends and family. We have a lot of friends now down here. We don't have a lot of family that live in town. So we have people that are always, come down to Charleston and hang out with us. We live right by the beach. Well, guess what? Like I enjoy that more than working, to be honest with you, because that's how I love life, or that's what a big part of me, my life is. But what I'm trying to say by it all is like, by being authentic to yourself and just saying like, hey, I really enjoy this stuff, and I bet other people do, has really helped us out of just, ensuring that kind of personal work-life balance.
I'm so glad you called bullshit on that, by the way. There's like this. Listen, I like to read, but damn it, if I get 10 pages in the morning, like I'm like, it's a big win for the day, and the idea that like people can consistently get up at 4 a.m. and cold plunge and work out and read 3 books and start their day, grind till 6, and then go do another workout, whatever it is that they do. And it's like, I don't know, man. I'm with you. Like, I get a lot more pleasure out of the human relationships that I have in life, and I want to take the time to enjoy that. And so, yeah, let's just go ahead and officially call bullshit on the persona of entrepreneurship.
100%.
All right, we'll call bullshit on it. So you said something earlier I want to come back to really quickly, because you talked about the role of like technology and the role it's played in modernizing accounting services in general. Are there a handful of technologies or specific technologies that you subscribe to or that you believe in within your firm that have been the most impactful for your firm and or your clients?
Yeah, I mean, again, the software as a service starting out a decade ago or 10, 12 years ago, and us adapting it and just using it and realizing this is the next best thing. Let's go and get on. That's truly helped. And clearly, leveraging that technology that can share data between each other and just create some efficiencies with that has been kind of the most, I think, biggest part of this. We have employees in 25 states. All of our clients, even if local clients, we work remotely. So clearly, like, we were doing Google Meets and Hangouts before COVID, right? And with all of our clients. So Zooms and Google Meets and things like that tremendously helps. Slack is unbelievable, right? Just for internal communications from a culture standpoint. With Slack, we have, Bravo is a channel. So people talk about the Bravo shows, there's different animals and pet things and kid things. So it's like keeping the culture with that has really helped out from a culture standpoint of us then. But then kind of moving forward to like, what's the next step with AI and Chat GPT and all this stuff? Clearly, there's a lot of things that can be done with that technology. We haven't done a ton with it because a lot of the stuff we're doing is already integrating like AI and, stuff into it. Our task tracking software, like QuickBooks, things like that. They're already doing some with that aspect. I don't, there's various. I think from an accounting finance standpoint, like number one in tax, like that's very true to the heart. That's something that a lot of people will talk about everything else in their life except their financial struggles or their tax struggles, right? So there's always going to need to be people involved in that aspect of it. Of, hey, let's look at this. What does this mean? How can you analyze this data? How can you do this or that? There's definitely, so from like is AI going to take over tax returns or different things? There's definitely like some context with that, and there's different basic things they can do. But I think that relationship with the person should never change. It's just the behind the scenes. How can we get more efficient? How can we reduce man hours? How can we systematize things? All those types of things that kind of come into play there, that I see in the industry and across all industries. But, it frustrates me when it's like, hey, this is an X number of dollar per month thing. Well, I'm going to go use this $300 technology per month that does everything for me. 4 months later, they're like, I don't know who to get a hold of. And it's like, yeah, well, that's the point why it's $300. Like, there's a little bit of a fine line of human interaction and stuff and leveraging technology. So,
well, as someone who's tried it multiple ways, I can say that I would be scared to death to fully hand over to tech. My bookkeeping, accounting, both on a personal and business level, the human touch, I don't think will ever go away from that type of business, regardless of how incredible the tech becomes.
Yep.
What are some of the most common financial mistakes you see entrepreneurs make, and how do you think they can avoid them?
I would say number one is managing their business out of a bank account. So just looking at the bank and being like, oh, sweet, got $100,000 in it today. Well, that's great, but you sold your raw material supplier $45,000, right? So just looking at it and thinking you're doing good and taking money out versus understanding that. So that, like, managing your bank account. And then the second thing literally is tied to that is, if you can understand the balance sheet as a business owner, it's a game changer. Like, and understanding what it means from assets versus liabilities and all those things. Clearly, I think the first stage of financial statement, like, is, profit and loss and on an accrual basis, understanding that. But if you can tie that out to like a balance sheet, like, that's a game changer as a business owner. With that perspective, I think number two is not having time to invoice your customers. That's the whole reason you're in business. Invoice them. Like, you have some agreement with them. Like, that's why they said it. And secondly, if they haven't paid you, follow up with them constantly. Like, don't feel bad about it. You agreed to some relationship. You invoice them. You did the work or are going to do the work. You need to get paid for it. So I just don't understand that aspect of it. So I would say those two things there are, I get very frustrated at, especially on the invoicing side. I'm like, come on, like, that's why you're in business. And I think one little thing as a business owner, when you hire people and employees, like, pay them on time, like, pay them consistently, like, don't pay them in arrear. Like, you get paid the 15th, the last day of the month. The 15th is from the 1st to the 15th. So there's no like delays. There's people that we work with that are, oh yeah, that person's first paycheck is going to be 45 days after they start, but then they'll get it every week because there's a 30. It's like, these people are literally just like trying to help you out and do stuff. Like, just take care of them and have one less thing off their brain for them. So those are a couple things.
No, those are big, man. I think that not running your business out of your bank account is super important. Like, not just, and particularly don't run every little transaction out of it. Like, the idea that you write every bill and everything, I think that's becomes far too onerous and way too difficult to keep a handle on. 100%. I don't get the don't have time to invoice. I always invoice people immediately, but I can see, in fact, this is not Gap approved, but in the early days of our business, we had to mail paper invoices into one of our biggest distributors still. And this is 10 years ago. You had to mail a paper invoice. And so, according to Gap, you shouldn't send the invoice until the product is gone. But I would get an invoice, or I would get a purchase order, and I would create an invoice the same day I received the purchase order, mail it out. We're not going to ship the PO for 2 weeks, but I would mail it out
Well,
because
the post office will get it over to them in 2 to 3 weeks. So
that's right. So, because in my mind, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, well, it's going to take them at least a week or so before this letter arrives in the mail, and then someone's got to like sort it in the internal mailroom. Then accounting has to open it, and then someone has to process it. So by the time all that happens, PO will be delivered. So yeah, I remember those days. That was a lot of fun. But I can see potentially how people could be uncomfortable with the follow-up on an unpaid invoice. I can see how that could happen.
And I'm with you. I understand that aspect of it, of like, well, that's the person I have a relationship with. That's the person who I'm selling to and all those things. But that's where it comes really into play of maybe having a buffer, having a bookkeeper. Hey, I'm sorry, my bookkeeper's emailing you twice a week. Well, that's their job. That's what they're doing. Like, I'm sorry. So you can get that buffer to kind of say, hey, over here, let's talk business. Let's talk upselling and get away from that dollar situation.
Well, that's right. The buffer is super, super helpful. And look, it's the lifeblood of your business. Cash flow is the lifeblood. Like, you don't have a business if you don't have cash flow. And if you don't get paid on time, and if you can't ask to be paid on time, then you don't have a business. So you're spot on with that. All right. I've got one more big question for you, and then we'll wrap it up. But and it kind of dovetails on the topic we were just talking on. But like, okay, you give advice to entrepreneurs and business owners all the time, and your firm helps them. But you are an entrepreneur yourself. So do you have any tips for like maintaining financial health and stability while also trying to scale a business?
Interesting. I would say a couple things would be, if you're like, you have to do what you have to do internally with your own business, what you're saying to other people, to other folks, right? We've been very consistent about financials, dashboards, departmental reportings, job profitability, how much time we're spending on this account, consistently doing that for years and years and years. So you need to do that. Like, I always laugh at, marketers or PR people, or sometimes you look at their websites, you're like, you do a website, but your website looks like that. Like, come on, like, let's do your website better if you're actually that business. So number one, I would say, you have to have consistent reporting and reviewing of everything, right? To do that. I think a big part of any service-based business or product-based business, so any business basically, is understanding margins at the specific driver of your business, right? So for us, we're supporting new Primal. It's X dollars a month. This should tie to X time per month on our team. We need to review that and look at that over time. And if it's consistently high or low, we may need to adjust or have a conversation or a scope change, right? Same thing on your end with the product level, at the customer level, at the distributor level. Because if you don't look at it that way, especially your service-based company, and some people don't, they look at the P&L. It's like, oh, you look great. But then all of a sudden, what if one of your customers is super profitable, but the other 15 are not? And then what if that profitable customer goes away and has been running, like, literally generating revenue for your entire company, and then all of a sudden you can fail, right? So looking at it at the actual specific driver of your business, and then separately, clearly on the overhead level, just kind of flows into it. I would say that, and I said the other thing would be, don't bite off more than you can chew. I mean,
good one.
The reason we've grown to where we are as a professional service firm is the referrals from our existing clients, our partners, people we've met, former clients, etc. So if we didn't perform a quality work product or service to them, they wouldn't tell their friends about them, right? So instead of growing like this and hiring 15 people, and as we all know, hiring talent's hard, training talent's hard, consistency of workflow and everything is super hard, right? It's hard to scale a business. So if you say, like, let's just grow like this, bring on 6 clients a month instead of 12, and let's just make sure we don't lose more than 3. And then those clients we have, they'll grow, and we can charge them more, right? So you have this model that kind of keeps going like this, and don't get too greedy to where you want to go like this.
Yep.
Because once you go like that, quality's going to go to shit. Your team's going to be frustrated because they're going to be dealing with more frustrated clients. more junior team members who it's way too much, a lot of work to kind of train and oversee them. So I would say that's a big part of it as well, is like we've been very conscious of that. I don't want to screw everything up and just make everything like fall down with a house of cards. So
that's a hard lesson learned, Brad. Growing in a sustainable way is a really hard lesson learned because most people are built to want this. And I'll tell you what you just said has absolutely played out exactly in our business. There was a time when we said, we're going to innovate like crazy. We're going to launch. I was planning to launch 15 new products in 2020 nationally at Whole Foods when COVID hit. I had 15 new SKUs that I had agreed to launch in March of 2020, and COVID hit. Now we launched them because Whole Foods put the PO in and we had it ready to go. We didn't know COVID was coming, but regardless of that, at our size and scale at the time, crazy idea. I mean, crazy idea to go after it like that, because you're exactly right. How do you manage quality control on 15 new products, launch them perfectly, make sure that everything is like, you've executed against all the pre-manufacturing, all the R&D, everything is like, it's impossible. Like a label's going to get screwed up somewhere, something's not going to print correctly. And all 15 of those are not going to be successful. So like you're going to end up with a bunch, and you don't know which one those are yet. So you're going to end up with a bunch of excess inventory on packaging materials that now you have to write off at the end of the year, and you just cash you burned in the street because you had this aggressive mindset versus like, hey, you know what? 2 or 3 really good products a year is and like executing perfectly is far better than 15 and 5 surviving.
Well, and that's it's very similar on our end related to, back to kind of the conversation of, let's say, expanding into the tax side of things, right? Having a tax team. So our core service is bookkeeping, controller services, right? But then you factor in a tax team, and then also separately, like now with so many inventory-based companies, and inventory systems implementation and consulting. The biggest issues when you add different like products or different departments is how do they communicate with each other? How do they affect each other, right? Specifically for you, if this one takes off, what about the ones that were really successful? For us, it's you guys have the best accounting and bookkeeping team ever, but your tax team sucks. And it's created my experience so bad that I'm leaving you all, right? Yeah. So it's also the same time as ensuring when you grow kind of slowly to have the team and the processes and the communication and the communication back and forth, right? The feedback loops of what's going on and how things are going across products, across services. Otherwise, it's just going to create more headaches than ever. And literally cash is going to get burned, like you said.
That's right. I've burned more cash by being aggressive than I care to admit. And so it's a lesson been very hard learned for me. The other side that I thought was really important that I just want to highlight one more time is like really knowing your margin and really understanding where your money is made. And we certainly have customers where we know the margin is compressed, and they're strategic for certain reasons, but you have to know where's your money made, which products are driving growth, which customers are bleeding you. And in order to make really good, solid decisions about the go forward in the business, again, really easy to look at a top line revenue number, really easy to look at, an overall P&L and go, oh yeah, we look pretty good. But, you might have, to your point, you might have one major customer that if you lose, the whole business is very different. So super, really valuable insights coming from someone who is a pro at helping small businesses get their accounting and bookkeeping right. Brad, we could talk for 2 hours, man. We should do a part 2, and we should do I don't know, we should workshop this a little bit one day. We should do like a little workshop together, I think. And see if we could do like I don't know, maybe a little mini masterclass in accounting for all these CPG folks. I don't know if you want to give that much information away for free, but
it's fine. Yeah. Like I think it'd be great. I think we could even do outside of accounting, but just like, a product-based company that grew is 12 years in, different phases, different milestones, what worked here, what didn't work here. Here's things to think about here. Same thing on my end, right? I guarantee there's a lot of synergies of doing this, we did this wrong, we did this right. This is what we did. This is when, in fact, impacted. This is the team you need. This is the, one thing like that, I'll go back to is running a 70-person firm. I'm just super happy that I have a business partner that literally is an adult, is mature, makes good decisions, is hardworking, and at the same time shares like a vision and a mission together. Because if I had a different business partner who maybe had a different situation or went off, so like even part of it, like the more I kind of reflect back, it's like having the right support structure, like, and that person emotionally helps you when you're having a bad day because they're going through a bad day on the business side, or you have a good day, they have a bad day. That, like not being by yourself. And so it's like, as you kind of keep growing and growing, having those people in place to really help out. And I know you have those folks as well, but it's the same thing of like, it's not just about reporting and financial reporting. It's about people and leaning on each other and having a shared common goal and having great talent, at your fingertips.
The supportive partner is so highly underrated for successful businesses and entrepreneurs. I've started to talk about it a little bit more, but man, without it, yeah, you can get everything else right. But if you don't have the right support system in place, you don't have a partner who, to your point, checks those boxes that you just spoke to. I mean, success is way harder. Way harder. You have a much more difficult path. Nail on the head, man. Like, really good point. Really, really good point.
Maybe we should have our next thing, or maybe we should go to market as the Black Shirt Crew.
Black Shirt Crew. The Black Shirt CPG Consulting Crew.
There we go. No, the Black Shirts. There we go.
The Black Shirts, or Black Shirt Venture Capital Fund or something like that. We'll do something fun. Brad, 12 years in, man. Congratulations. Congratulations on all your success. This has been fun. I'm really proud to have worked with you, to have grown up alongside you in this, and to watch you and your family grow. It's been pretty amazing, and I'm glad to call you a friend as well. So thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, Jason, this was great. Again, same to you. Congrats and everything. Happy to call you a friend and a good colleague and somebody I can always reach out to if I need anything. 12 years in, similar to you, even like the old gray hairs, white hairs are coming out of the beard, aren't they?
Yeah, the beard. They start there first.
This is awesome, man. Thank you so much, Jason.
Yeah, thank you.